Hey YouTube, League Turnover. It is Ultra League and another week of Great League Fossil Cup. So I'm actually going to do an updated tier list this afternoon, so stay tuned for that. But we are looking at Ultra Cup right now. So those of you who are new or just forgot because it's been a while since Ultra League, 2500 CP, Pokemon XLs and Legendary Pokemon. Here's your top 20 ranking list. There is, I'm not going to go over too long because there is very little that has changed on this list. There's a couple things that went up and down. And I think the biggest thing on this list, why stuff has gone up and down, and why I'm going to tell you to ignore the movements, is because Zygarde, the complete form, is now at number 2, which is a huge thing if you can get it. Because Niantic is incompetent, I doubt that you're going to see any. Like, you may see like 1 or 2, because I know that some people have found roots and are finding shards, but roots are pretty much non-existent. When you do find a root, I heard that the shards to get this is very like 1 in like 50, like it's very bad odds, and you need like 250 or something crazy like that. I don't think anyone's gonna have complete form Zygarde. So because Zygarde is now into this, the rankings have shifted a bit, right? So stuff that was normally higher, like Swampert, because you can't throw the hydro cannons against a dragon, that got lowered. Where Cress, having the Moonblast to take it out, went higher, right? So overall, like the 20 that you see on this list, it's less than 20 because Swampert's got 2 there and a couple shadow versions on here. Outside of that, short of up and down a couple, the list overall is still the same, right? Even though Crest wasn't 4 before, it was maybe like 6 or 7. Swampert at 8 and 9 was maybe like 6 before. But you still have all the essentials on it. Registeel is your main, like, just tanky nuke option. Cobalion and Verzine as your double kick users. Swampert as your water and hydro. Pidgeot as your flyer. Aurora says, and walrein as your ice. Giratina altered as one of the best safe subs as Ghost. Tapu Fini is another great water option. Like, these are not new Pokemon. We've seen every single one of these in past seasons. And this past earlier this year as well. So that is why you do not need to worry about changing your formula too much. And my teams that I'm going to go over, the 5 teams that have worked so far this season after the move update, right? Because I think it's important to take into consideration the move update. Like Walrein with the Icicle Spear got a buff this season. I'm just seeing if anything else on this list got buff. Jellicent with Surf, that was a previous buff in a previous season. Yeah, I don't think actually many things on this list got a buffer nuke this season. But let's go to the teams because I had 5 teams that worked this year. The one team I have found that Shadow Charizard has been my best Pokemon this season for Ultra League. It is the wing attack buff and made this thing really strong. Blast Burn just kind of, and even in bad situations, like a Blast Burn still does like 50% to a water Pokemon minimum. Like it's such a hard hitting move, and the wing attack is very quick to get to it. So Charizard can act as a safe swap for this team. I use actually Regirock as the first safe swap for this team, but Charizard, Swampert balanced, right? Your main issues are going to be Rock for Charizard. So Swampert obviously deals with that, and Regirock is just find a safe swap. Quite honestly, Swampert Charizard require with a safe swap. If you have Registeel, that's a better safe swap. You could put in Giratina Altered as a safe swap. I wanted to just test new things out. I put in Regirock first, and then I also went A9tails because of that core is coming up later, so I'm not going to talk about it too much because that is just a very safe core. Tapu Fini Double Dragon. I've run this team this season and last season, and every single time it does so well. You have Giratina on the lead. Tapu on the lead. You come in with Giratina as a safe swap. Pull out something that beats a dragon, fairy, stuff like that. Shadow Claw, Shadow Sneak does great. You could pull out a Dark potentially too. And then Tapu Fini beats that. And then Dragonite roams free. Dragonite is very surprisingly safe in this meta. Again, there's not a ton. There's some fairies. There is obviously Tapu. There's Ninetales. Some people want to run Gramble and Clefable and stuff like that. But there's not like a crazy amount of fairy. The other option is ice, and that's why you have Tapu, right? Because that will resist the ice. So Ice is a little bit of an option issue because you're double weak to ice, but superpower also does super effective against ice. So worst case scenario, you can potentially hit for at least neutral to super effective on your ice type Pokemon that come in to beat you there. So I work well with it. Again, obviously it has weaknesses. You're double weak to ice, you're double weak to fairy in the back. You have potential to get hard punished with it, but every single time I've run this team, I've done really, really well with it. This is a very balanced team. So Pidgeot on the lead. Again, Pidgeot on the lead is so tricky because you're either Brave Birding and getting out into Umbreon, which is a very, very safe, bulky safe swap, or you are potentially baiting Feather Hands and just lowering their attack times 2 guaranteed. And that is, as soon as you lower your opponent's attack by 2 or get a second one off and lower it by 4, they have to reset and go to something else, and then you can take switch. Umbreon, I think, is one of the best safe swaps in this league still. Your biggest punish right now, I mean, Fairy is an issue, but like you survive a crazy amount of charms, and Last Resort is neutral. Actually, your biggest issue is Cobalion, quite honestly, because you have nothing to throw at it as a steel fighter. That's the biggest issue you're going to get hit with that, but then Pidgeot obviously does okay against that. And then you don't need to use Lurantis. I use Lurantis as sort of the steel answer because you're very, like, Pidgeot has nothing to throw at like Registeel and stuff like that. And Lurantis with superpower charges, if you haven't used it, it charges so quickly and stuff like that. So you need a steel answer. Again, you can use, I just didn't want to use like Swampert again or something like that, right? You can use Swampert and stuff like that. Just have a steel answer in the back to balance Pidgeot. So balanced team there. So Swampert A9 core is very, very strong because Swampert's only weakness is grass, and A9, if you use Powder Snow, is just the greatest answer to all the all the grass Pokemon, right? So that's why that core plus a safe swap. And this team, what I did was I'm like, you know what? Charm A9 just has more play, I think, in the Ultra League right now overall, just because of its, especially Shadow version, just that charm damage just does so much. And then, so what I wanted to do was you can't, the problem with this team is you're now weak to like Venusaur or something that resists the charm, like a poison grass. So I ran with the double ice team, Walrein, that has the Powder Snow Icicle Spear that can deal with your grass. So you can use it as a safe swap because you're double weak to like rock in the back. So is sort of an ABB style team. So you might want to use Walrein as a safe swap. So this team depends on your ability to read, and why this team is a bit trickier. You need to sort of read your opponent's team quickly to determine whether you think there's like a rock type Pokemon in the back and that you need to like get out and draw it out with like a Walrein, or if potentially there's not, and then you can just use like sort of Walrein, Charm, Ninetales as a core in the back. So it's a bit more, not advanced, but it takes a little more thinking than it does otherwise. And then this team, Charizard, Scrafty, Chris, again, I said Charizard has been the best in this meta for me by far. Again, I already kind of went over why. Its main weakness is water. The main waters, so that's why I put in Crest, because Crest with Grass Knot is going to deal with pretty much any water in this meta. And then again, it's so tanky, and then Moonblast will do well. Where you have problems with this team is like kind of like a Charizard lead, or Charizard is the main problem because you have nothing for Crest to throw at it. Grass Knot and Moonblast is resisted, and Scrafty is going to get lit up against a Flyer too. So that's kind of an issue. Your backline is also very weak to Tapu Fini, so Scrafty and Charizard are weak to Tapu Fini. So what you might want to do is, again, I used Scrafty. If you go watch the video, you can just check in the playlist for Ultra League playlist, and I have all my videos there. If you go to that place, I say I have a love-hate relationship with Scrafty because it's one of those Pokemon where like it can very easily it's not dependent on Power Punch baits, but sometimes you really need to kind of get ramped up. But like if you get a good matchup where you can ramp up, like Scrafty ramped up on Power Punches and having foul plays coming out to throw in neutral situations is very, very, very deadly. So with Crest and Charizard, I probably would modify this team a bit. Again, I put in Scrafty because you need sort of like a rock answer if you're going to have Charizard that's weak to rock. Crest will do okay against rock. in general. But like if you had like a Galarian Stunfisk, you know, it's a bit tricky. That's why I had Scrafty. But with that, there is limitations to it based on what you're seeing with like flyers. The other option is if you don't want that flyer weakness, it takes a lot of XLs, and if you don't have the hundo, double just had its. I know I have a hundo double, which is already best buddied. I'm still like 100 plus 115 XL short, so I won't be able to get it anytime soon. But I think double is an option to put it instead of Scrafty there to deal with this, with the sort of rocks and steels as well with the double kick. Plus you still have like the payback for ghosts and stuff, which you're a bit weak to with Cress. So that's it. I probably, based on the views the last couple of days, I will be playing Ultra League this week. I think Fossil Cup has kind of run its course. Again, you can check the video this afternoon because there is really only like 15 Pokemon. I actually do have a couple teams that I ran with yesterday morning. So I'm going to showcase them sometime, maybe on the weekend or early next week. That I actually did very well with, actually, because I went 7-3 with the first one and 7-3 with the second one too. Like I did very well both teams after dropping a lot trying out other Pokemon. With that said, I've tried out like all 15 core Pokemon for Fossil Cup, so I have a tier list coming 2 p.m. Eastern time, the standard this afternoon. So check out that if you're interested in which Pokemon you need to prioritize if you are going to play Fossil Cup, if you don't have the Ultra League, if you don't have like the XLs and legendary Pokemon for this. In terms of like non-legendary Pokemon and stuff like that, as you saw with the rankings, there are a lot of like legendary or XL or both Pokemon, right? Registeel, Zygarde, Registeel, Crest, Cobalion, Regirock, yep, Giratina, Tapu Fini are all legendary. And then you have the XLs on here, Pidgeot and Steelix and Jellicent, stuff like that, right? So your options on this list are, I think, like Swampert, Walrein. That's why Swampert, Walrein core is actually pretty decent. Like you're double to ice, grass, but again, not a ton of grass in this meta. And then Powder Snow, Icicle Spear are obviously super effective against ice. So there are options there. You might want to cover third, like a Virizion with your third, quite honestly. But yeah, it's very limited in terms of like XLs, non-XLs, and non-legendary Pokemon in this meta. Unfortunately, you can get away with it. Just think about your. Honestly, if you it depends how long you've been playing. If you're very limited in legendary and XL Pokemon for Ultra League, I always recommend, you really can't go wrong with Community Day Pokemon. Swampert with Hydro Cannon, Charizard with Blast Burn, Walrein with Icicle Spear, to a certain extent, Empoleon with Water, Hydro Cannon itself, Venusaur with Frenzy Plant. Like, you're going to be limited in some of the matchups. In some matchups, just because bulk and stuff like that. But outside of that, there's a lot of Pokemon, community Pokemon, which just have like nuke moves. So if I don't have the XLs and legendaries to compete with that, I'm always focusing on community Pokemon as my starting point for team building. So that is just my recommendation. Anyways, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the updated tier list this afternoon, and we will go with a bunch of teams, Ultra League, and a couple more Fossil Cup teams this week. So thanks for watching. See you guys in the next one.